The following is a conversation with Ryan Gogoski, who is the owner of 180 Sites, and in my opinion, he is the king of monthly websites. Now, monthly websites as a service have been getting a lot more attention recently in a number of Facebook groups I'm a part of, as well as in other communities, and I felt that a conversation with Ryan was justified because I don't think there's anybody that does it better than him. He acquired over 200 clients in 2022 alone. And so what I wanted to do was pick his brain a little bit to understand what are the key differentiators to that success, how replicable is it, and what are some of the other factors that he feels are the keys to that success. I think this conversation is really encouraging if you're interested in building your base of monthly recurring revenue. I've started to employ some of his tactics in my own business, and it's very fruitful. Please consider subscribing to my email list. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll compile another list. If we need to, we'll bring Ryan back on and hopefully live in the future. So I hope you enjoy the video. Drop your comments below and we're gonna jump right into it. So I'm here with Ryan, and recently he made a post in the Admin Bar Facebook group that was probably one of the most popular threads ever to pop up in that. And if you don't know who Ryan is, he runs a company called 180 Sites. He is, in my opinion, the king of monthly sites, and I think he has the numbers and experience to back that. So I'm stoked that Ryan has taken the time to chat with me. I've talked to you a ton. So really my goal with chatting with you is just to kind of talk about breaking the mold of a conventional web agency. So you do things very atypical to what most of us do. You know, you're not sitting around waiting on that 50% deposit. You're not that skeleton meme of like, dead on the bench waiting for content. And so there's a lot of stuff there that I think is super intriguing for us to cover. And really the thing that I think sparked the most interest is the fact that you have a refund guarantee for your website projects. So I guess maybe we can just kind of kick off with, why that is something that you lead with. Nobody else does that. Nobody else has that sort of refund policy in place. And maybe what you think some of the other key differentiators to your success are, because I would argue that for your scale, in terms of your operation size, you're probably one of the biggest in terms of revenue per employee, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. So the refund policy, that's kind of like the tip of the iceberg in terms of lowering the hurdle for people to want to work with you. So there's a lot of things we do there. The base of that would be just the entire model itself, how it's sold, which we can jump into that. But as far as the refund policy goes, it's an unconditional 30-day money back guarantee, and that will cancel their contract. So they'll get out of the payment plan that they're signing up for, and we'll refund their money. So when people are surveying, web designers that they could work with, if you can give anything to reduce their risk, it's going to differentiate you. So the key to a compelling offer would be to stack as much value as possible and to reduce the amount of risk as much as possible for your customers. In the end, it will reward you because you will be able to work with more customers, and that will, of course, raise your revenue and your profits. Most people are terrified of that because of the risk that it incurs to them and to their business. But you're in the business of serving people, so you should assume all the risk. Why should your customer take on risk? You want to make it as easy as possible for them. So if they don't like what we did for them, even though 99% of customers already know what they're going to get into because we sell mostly template sites. It's a very small amount of people that get custom sites for us. So they already know what they're getting into. So that in itself reduces the likelihood of them wanting to cancel. But maybe they, made a hasty decision and they changed their mind, or they just didn't like the way I punctuated an email, whatever it may be. Their 4-year-old daughter thought it looked ugly. Doesn't matter. For whatever reason they want to, cancel and get a refund, they can do so. So because they have that in their mind, what's going to stop them from moving forward? Hey, we'll do all the work for you. We'll build your website. If you're not absolutely thrilled with the product, the service, the everything, the customer service, everything involved, the timeline, how fast we work, you can back out. It's no problem. So people are willing to pull the trigger.
With that, I'm going to go back and listen to what you just said on half speed 2 or 3 different times. There was so much in there for sure. So I think it's worth mentioning, if you aren't familiar specifically with what we're talking about, the monthly site model is just simply monthly payments for the website instead of large lump sums. And I think a lot of people have a big resistance to that. They're like, why would I do that instead of the typical 50-50 or, third payment model? And I've experienced this a little bit. I only have a few of these monthly sites in my belt, but I guess I'm curious for you. You did this model from the very beginning. So what kind of compelled you to go that way?
Yeah, I think early on it's hard to acquire customers. So I was just slowly iterating anything I could to make it easier to work with me and to make it more compelling for people. So a low monthly cost, especially for the niches of people that I'm working with. They're small businesses, they're home service companies. They don't have a lot of cash. Some of them do, but a lot of the people I work with are just starting out their business, and it's something that they wouldn't otherwise make a decision on at that stage of their business. But because the bar to entry is so low, they can get this asset that's going to serve their business and slowly pay it off over time. So it's a win-win for everybody. It makes sense for them. They can start getting more leads right away, and they don't have to put up this giant, investment to start getting that. And it's a win for us because we're able to work with 10 times more people than we normally would have.
Yeah, there's a bunch to dissect in what you just said in terms of scalability. Reducing risk is obviously a factor in that, and the industry. So you had some background in these home services spaces yourself, in terms of prior to becoming a web agency owner. Do you think that plays a factor in it? I've seen lots of people say, oh well, I don't have a niche because what I'm interested in is not a viable niche. So I guess the
Mm-hmm.
question is, do you need to have a niche, number one, and then also do you need to have specific experience in that to kind of relate to your customer?
I think the having a background in anything can just kind of help get the ball rolling. You're gonna either already have contacts that you can reach out to, or you're just going to be able to speak their language and build rapport with them with some sort of commonality with the customers you're trying to serve in maybe an industry that you have experience in. So you can get the ball rolling, but it's not necessary. I had a window cleaning business, so I have contractors and home services in like 15 different industries. The window cleaning experience didn't help me get those customers, but yeah, it helped me get the ball rolling a little bit. I think a niche is important. Um, Differentiating yourself is what's important, and a niche is just one primary way that you can do that. So if you offer the same level of service, the same benefits, the same price, the same level of risk as somebody else, but your messaging is geared toward a specific niche, you're instantly differentiated. You could actually provide a lower quality service than somebody else that's not differentiated or isn't in a niche, but you're going to be more trustworthy, seen as more apparent and as an authority because you're targeting that niche specifically. So they're going to want to work with you because they feel like this is lower risk for them because this person specifically, works for me. It's like if I were to hire a lawyer, I wouldn't want to hire just some general lawyer, even if he's like the best lawyer with the best track record. But maybe there's, somebody with less experience, but they're like, all I do is work in this specific area. That's an easy thing to understand because the ramifications are so high with, dealing with law. But that's the way people are going to think about anything. If you're specifically targeting yourself to them and their customer avatar, you're speaking their language, and they're going to want to work with you. So a niche is super important, and it could be a broad niche. It doesn't have to be super super refined. Our niche is pretty broad. We just say service businesses. That's what our website says. Mostly it is home service businesses, but um, we say we provide the best websites for the service industry. That's extremely broad, and we still work with people outside of the service industry as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the little bit that I've dabbled in it accidentally has been home services. Like I was proud of myself for putting the shelves up on the wall. So the idea of like DIY and like home services like contracting or roofing or even like window cleaning and that kind of thing is well outside of my scope. And somehow I have multiple of those clients. But
Mhm.
where I want to focus is automotive. So I appreciate you saying that because I agree with you that I don't think you have to be honed in on that particular thing. But when an automotive shop does call, I'm going to understand everything about them and be able to know specifically what they're talking about. You know, they say the word alternator. I'm like, yep, sure, I got you, dude. I think the vast majority of people listening slash watching this are going to be small agency owners that are already doing business and already have that project based fee comfort factor. And I think it's difficult to transition. Have you given any thought to making that transition and what you might have done in hindsight had you begun with the project focus model? So I guess, sorry, my real question is, would you recommend people make that jump? Is it for everybody?
I don't think it's for everybody, but there's benefits and there's drawbacks. There's benefits on the front end and ongoing for the rest of your lifetime with that customer. And if those benefits seem appealing to you, then it probably will make sense to you. So the benefits immediately would be you're going to probably have a higher amounts of leads and higher close rate because it's just a much more feasible way for people to do business with you. If you're in the business of selling $30,000 websites, probably not. Although you still could do that, some sort of payment plan, $3,000 a month for 10 months, whatever you want to do to make it a little bit easier for people. So you'll reduce friction in the front end, you'll acquire more clients, and it also bakes in the fact that you're going to be providing a care plan for them. So that's already included in the price for 24 months. So their payment plan is for 24 months. During that time, they get free hosting, maintenance, updates, support. That's how we do it. You can do it differently. But after 24 months, their billing automatically drops down to our care plan price. There's no friction there. They just keep going on. If they want to cancel, they can. They can take their site and manage it on their own. But they've been using us for 2 years, loving our service. We're doing all the updates for them, making sure everything's running smoothly. Why would they, immediately want to abrupt that and take on all this extra work for themselves for $150 a month? That's what the price we drop down to is after the 2 years. So no matter what package they're on, their price will drop to $150 a month. And we have an extremely low churn rate. Like probably 90% of people or more stay with us past the 2 year point. And so it's just increasing recurring revenue perpetually. And if that's enticing to you, then maybe it's something you want to consider. Getting started on it could be a little tricky. If you have zero recurring revenue and you're doing a $10,000 project once a month, and then you just switch to a few $100 a month, that's obviously going to disrupt your life. So probably try to build up some care plans, maybe some other recurring revenue services. And once you're in the green as far as your life and your operational expenses, then switching over would be a feasible thing for you to do that isn't going to, bankrupt your business.
So that makes me think of a question that I've seen quite a bit too around the early adoption of customers. Like the acquisition. And I know I've been guilty of it for many years, especially prior to being on YouTube. I would just sit there and just patiently wait for the phone to ring or emails to come in, and obviously that's not a viable way to grow a business. So you touched on your kind of thought leadership and your involvement in like Facebook groups as a key driver of that success. And so that I think is probably going to come up. People are going to say, well, how do you get those clients? How did you do that? And I think your atypical approach, it applies here too. So what do you feel like is Facebook groups kind of the key to your early success, would you say?
Not so much now. I don't put really any effort into that any longer. But getting started, I tried to join as many home service Facebook groups as I could, contractor groups, and would just search the threads of anything marketing web related, and just tried to provide as much helpful information as I could. If people talked about yard signs, I'd be like, hey, I'll make you a free yard sign design. People were talking about like using gift cards for a marketing tactic. I was like, I'll make you free gift card designs, and that's pretty minimal time investment. Just you got something in Canva or Photoshop and you're just swapping out logos, phone numbers, and websites. Oh, you don't have a website. What a great conversation starter now. So I would do that with the yard signs and the gift cards. People would be like, yeah, make me one. Here's my business name and phone number. And I'm like, well, where's your website? Or their website sucked. It was an easy way to get that conversation started. So that was in the early stages, spending a lot of time there, just trying to be helpful, helped me build some rapport in my niches, but it also helped me learn who the other marketers are in these niches. And they provided all the marketing under the sun, but they didn't do web design. So make friends with those types of people. Make friends with people that you can have a symbiotic relationship with, that you can refer people to, they can refer people to you. And just getting started running was acquiring clients through Facebook groups, but probably the first 2 years of my success was due to affiliate partners, so other agencies that I would refer work to. Even if I didn't have work to refer to them, people would say, who's the go-to guy for ads for Facebook, for SEO, and I would just give helpful information and make those recommendations, and people want to reciprocate that. So if you have clients to refer, that's an easy win. And even if you don't, you could still send a lot of value to people that they will reciprocate.
It's really funny because there's a philosophy in the group BNI called Giver's Gain, and it's exactly what you're describing. And it sounds so goofy, and I know a lot of people have a resistance to BNI, but that particular thing is so true. It's like if I've given you 10 leads, there's just like this sense of like obligation for me to return it in a meaningful way.
And so all relationships work.
Yeah.
Business, affiliates, friendships. If you're not providing any value to somebody, you're not providing any value to them. Why do they want to be in your life? You don't have to think about it that transactionally. But the more you can help people, the more they're going to want to help you. And that's just the nature of humanity.
It's interesting because it goes back to what you said at the very beginning of, loading it down with value. Like, I mean, that's the core of the whole approach here, is just packed with value up and down, for everybody, for both you and for them. I think it's a really fascinating model, and one that is very atypical. In fact, like I said, I've done just a few of these sites now, but one project we won was for a small local museum, and we were chosen simply because for them, being a small museum, you can imagine their nonprofit, bank balance is very, very important. And so they said, we don't want to spend thousands of dollars up front, and I'm still going to make that, over the course of the term. And they're thrilled. So you have these advocates for you too. So the other thing I wanted to mention was just kind of your, not necessarily philosophy, but your workflow, in terms of you can turn things around super quickly. You get the websites live. That's another one of your USPs. And just some of the other benefits that come out of this model for you guys specifically, which I think is true for everybody else.
Anything particular about the workflow you want to jump into?
So much. I think one of the most interesting things that most people don't have is automations, and you're my automation hero.
Yeah. So I guess let's start with step one. So somebody reaches out. There's like a 3 or 4 field form. So super simple for them to just, hey, I'm kind of interested in this.
Reduce friction.
Yeah, and everything's transparent. Pricing is already there, so people that are reaching out, they already know what they're getting into. So it's not just this awkward conversation of no expectations. They're 90% of the way there. So they'll fill that out. They'll get a text message automatically, just letting them know I'm going to reach out right away. And then I will send them an email. And most of the time, this email is already scripted. And then I have a bunch of pre-made videos that are speaking to them, their service, what industry they're in. I'll put their name and their business name on there on a landing page, and so they get this pretty lengthy email, a video that's addressed specifically to them. So it looks like I spent 30 minutes putting this thing together, but I put 30 seconds into it. So this is definitely a great way to quickly facilitate your follow-ups with leads. They'll also get entered into the email drip system, so they'll constantly be getting emailed there. Let's say they want to sign up. They just tell me which package they're interested in. I send them a sign up link specifically for that package, and that's it. They're done as far as what I need to do. So they'll click that. They'll immediately get taken to our contract. They'll review and sign that. Then they'll immediately get taken to checkout. They'll put their credit card on for the subscription, and then they'll immediately get funneled into their onboarding form where they'll fill that out, and then they'll drop all their photos as well there. So they're done in about 5 to 7 minutes. And then from there, a ton of things automate. So their board will automatically get set up in our project management system. They'll get another text message just hyping them up. They will get added into our text messaging marketing system, our email marketing system, our postcard marketing system. About 3 days later, they'll get a box in the mail with brownies and a thank you card. Automatically, 6 months later, they'll get a postcard and a voicemail. Another 6 months later, they'll get a voicemail and a postcard just checking in. And everything's like pretty set up. As far as what I need to do now, their board is ready to go. I'll just review that, clean it up a little bit, and hand it off to one of our developers, whoever has the least amount of workload at that time. And then I step out, and the developer and the project manager take over from there.
So I think if it's not immediately obvious, the idea of efficiency and standardization is really important across the whole system. I mean, all the way through, you reduce friction for yourself with those automations and, text expander kind of preloads and stuff. So that's something that I think is not only valuable for this methodology just as a whole for monthly sites, but also just in terms of like, as I've gone more and more to this, and I'm kind of doing that crossover where like I still take on, flat rate projects simply because the recurring revenue isn't quite there yet. But the other thing that it's done for me that I've noticed is it's almost allowed me to like clear my head of these projects where like, 6 months ago, the projects were so custom. The only person that had any sense for how it was going to happen was me. So there's just all this, all these data and all this numbers and thoughts about how to complete this project in your head. But now everything's so standardized, thanks to you. So I appreciate you, buddy. That like it's so clear now. There's no confusion. I mean, this is the box that it fits in. And that made me think of something else. We've heard, both you and I, from other web people, that they don't want to go this route because they want that super high touch, really custom service. But for me, I want that level of standardization and recurring revenue. So I
think you can do both.
And
I think you're freed and liberated to provide more touch points and care for your customer because you've standardized and made your processes simplified and standardized, and that's running streamline. If you're neck deep in the weeds on the project, you can't provide the high level customer care that you want to. I mean, you're just going to have no life. I guess if you have 1 or 2 clients, you can juggle it all, but start getting into hundreds of clients, how could you do that if everything is not automated and systematized to a T?
Yeah,
you
so
just can't get past any point of scale at a certain point.
You did over 200 in 2022?
2022, we got 211 new customer signups for websites.
I would strongly argue that there's no agency out there that could do 211 new sites, even with a team probably 5x as big as yours. I just don't think. I think the scale is almost like a balloon, where like what you're able to do as you grow is even higher. But from the agency touchpoint thing, it's such a good point because you already described all the touch points that they're getting along the way thanks to those automations, because everything's predictable and kind of fits inside your box. The brownie thing is super interesting. What are the responses like? Do you find people are engaged back with you on those things?
Not everybody, but they're business owners. They got a lot going on. They might really appreciate it and just forget. So it's not that just because they didn't respond doesn't mean it didn't impact them.
Of course.
But a lot of people do. A lot of people will tell me like they were fighting over it with their wife or their kids, and we do a lot of other pretty cool stuff on top of that. But that's just like the baseline. This is always going to happen no matter what.
Such a cool way to do it, to reach out and be involved with that, because I think that staying engaged with your clients is so important. And I experienced that right after the new year, where I sent a simple offer to my clients and just said, we have this New Year's deal on some basic SEO. The take rate was insane, and it just got me thinking, gosh, if I was more engaged on a regular basis, as I should be, as you are, it would be so much easier to go back to this client list. In your case, hundreds. Mine was small. I sent the email to just under 50 people. That's another thing that struck me, was the way that you build this client list. It enables you to have this pool of people to be able to go back to, and the power of email marketing is immense. I think it's underrated as agency owners. That's such an incredibly valuable tool for you. But with a business where you're doing, like you said, one $10,000 site a month, in a year, you're going to have 12 people on that list. So it's not really as valuable. Are you able to offer additional services and kind of uptake like SEO and, help people with content writing? Because all that stuff's additional fees for you, right?
Yeah. So we don't really have that many things to add on. For the most part, it's content writing is the main add-on service. I did offer SEO for a little bit and decided this isn't what I want to do. Maybe again in the future we might. I mean, we got many thousands of people that have shown interest in us. We've got about 500 customers right now. So if I want to add on another service, I could very easily scale that up pretty quickly with people that already love and trust our services. I've had just recently a guy was like asking me to please start adding marketing services. He's like, I will sing your praises to everybody. I'm like, yeah, maybe one day, but just focusing on the one thing right now and scaling that up, and we'll see. If I replace myself, then I could start putting in some other key roles to maybe do some other things as well. But for right now, just focusing on the main thing. We have a couple of little add-on things, but it's not substantial. For me, I feel like it's important to just hone in on one thing and grow that as much as possible. Whatever the main thing is, the most profitable, the most scalable, focus on that. Oftentimes, at least in my experience, I've started to try to do other things, and it's just a distraction that ended up being a waste of time. Yeah, I made some money, but the opportunity cost of the distraction is not worthwhile.
Yeah, that's a really, really valuable thing to consider. I mean, it's like there's, in my side life outside of work, I mentioned automotive, and there's a company that specializes just in German car parts. They do nothing else. And those have become the people. Even forum posts from 5 and 10 years ago, you hear people singing their praises. And it's like they could branch out into Chevy and Ford and all the other car companies all around the world, but all they do is, the big 3 German brands, and they've become, world renowned for it. So I look at companies like yours and like that, and I'm like, there's clearly something to be said for this, like where you're simplifying your packages and your offerings, and yet you can do so much more with it. It's really interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. Once you've tapped out all your efforts, start expanding your offerings. But most people are not even close to that, and they think they are, but they still got a lot more to go.
I'm guilty of that myself as well. I know this has been relatively brief, and there's so much we can talk about this. I've been fortunate to chat with Ryan for a long time, and I think if I can add some closing thoughts on this, it comes down to, like Ryan already shared, are you in a position where this makes sense. Is recurring revenue something that you want to focus on, and to be so honed in on your business that you can build these standardizations in a way that will benefit both you and your client? If that sounds like something you're interested in, it's worth considering. It's a long road. I will admit it took me months to organize this to be able to get to the point of even offering it once. But the very first time I pitched it, they said yes, and that was enough of a fire for me to keep pushing. So I think it's a slow burn. For most of us, it's going to be, like I said, that kind of like X crossover point where maybe you're scaling down on the custom side and scaling up on the monthly side. It's totally doable. But if that's not you, you probably haven't made it this far in the video anyway.
Yeah.
Yep. But Ryan is, dude, I appreciate your friendship and your insight, and I want to encourage any of you listening, if there's more questions that you have, pay attention to Ryan in the admin bar community. I'll link that. He posted a thread that you can dig through that spawned this discussion, and in that he covered a bunch of questions. We tried to kind of talk about some of those, but also just speak to you if you're interested in that sort of thing. So Ryan, thanks so much, dude. And I'm sure we'll see you in the admin bar.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan. And if you guys got follow-up questions, you want to do another one of these, let John know,
I
and I'll jump back on.
I highly suspect that we will. Thanks, dude.